So let me go over some guidelines. Eating well with or without multiple sclerosis means eating a variety of colorful plant foods every day. In fact, I encourage it multiple times a day. With many of the people I work with, I encourage them to try to eat color at every meal, and bonus points if it can be different from meal to meal and day to day. Whole grains. If you're eating whole grains more often than not, fantastic. Include beans, legumes, nuts, and seeds in your meals and snacks. Make sure that the proteins on your plate are lean proteins. And again, variety matters here as well. So mix it up from beef, pork, chicken, fish, and occasionally try to think of including a plant protein. Include heart-healthy unsaturated fats like monounsaturated, polyunsaturated fats that include the omega-3 fatty acids. And make sure you're including abundant sources of low-fat calcium foods to support bone health, because folks with MS are at an increased risk of fracture. So if for any reason you avoid dairy, make sure that your dairy alternative is fortified with calcium. And then the things that you would like to limit your consumption of would be salt, saturated fats, added sugars, and highly refined foods. I'd like to take a moment to point out that added sugars are not those that occur naturally in fruit or dairy. I'm talking about the sugars that, for example, turn corn flakes into frosted flakes. Those are the sugars that are added after the fact, and they are generally listed on the nutrition facts label. The only thing that everyone really should be avoiding entirely are trans fats. And you'll know you're dealing with a trans fat if you see the terms partially hydrogenated vegetable oil on a nutrition facts label. So I've listed some things that I think everyone should be doing related to their food choices, but when it comes down to it, no diet? I would say no diet. The way you eat does not need a title. But for the record, the eating pattern that I just described is endorsed by the American Heart Association, the American Diabetes Association, the Arthritis Foundation, and the American Institute for Cancer Research. And it can be generally described as a Mediterranean eating pattern. I just think that sometimes we can get really overwhelmed or intimidated by diets. A diet seems like a really big change, like empty the pantry and start over, like with food rules, with right choices and wrong choices, like I need a meal plan and specific recipes, like it's so overwhelming, it's something I'm going to start on Monday. Eating well does not have to be that hard. It really doesn't. It's better to focus on the small details that will add up over time. And it's really important to focus on addition rather than subtraction. There is research to suggest that 75% of the people living in our country today are not eating enough vegetables. So let's focus on adding some vegetables rather than all those micromanaging the nutrients that we need to avoid when there's just really no evidence to support that. And remember, health promoting eating pattern is physically and emotionally nourishing. If something weighs on you emotionally, you really should speak with your healthcare provider to make sure it is warranted. Take one day at a time, make one change at a time, and practice it until it has become successfully integrated into your daily life, also known as the new normal. And then decide what your next step will be. And then repeat the process until you've adopted the healthy habits that you would like to adopt. But if this is new to you, you may be wondering where to begin. So I will offer just a few examples. This is by no means a complete list, but it's just a few ideas to get you started. So assess where you are right now. Are you currently eating 3 cups of colorful vegetables a day? No, if you're like 75% of the Americans I just mentioned, you might not be, and this would be a great place to start. If you're currently eating no vegetables, for example, start with just 1 and gradually increase. If you're eating, let's say you are eating 3 cups of vegetables a day, do these 3 cups of vegetables represent a variety of colors? No, are you pretty limited? This will be a great place to start. If your veggie choices are very limited, peruse the produce aisle for a new to you vegetable. Find a recipe and give it a go. Not everything will be a hit, but the point is keep experimenting. Are you eating whole grains more often than not? No? This would be a great place to start. You can start with substituting whole grain bread instead of what you're eating currently if it's not already whole grain bread. Add grains to soups, include them in your breakfast. Remember, oatmeal is a great whole grain way to start your day. Are you eating enough fiber? No. It is very important part of keeping our gut healthy is fiber. And if you're not eating enough, this would be a great place to start. You can increase your fiber by eating more colorful plant foods, beans, legumes, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. So by adding plant foods to your plate, you will be adding fiber. Are you drinking enough water? This may be a problem. Some folks with MS who have bladder concerns, they tend to not drink enough water to prevent accidents, but it's very important to stay hydrated. So if you're not drinking enough water, this could be a great place to start. And it's particularly important if you're also adding fiber, because fiber requires fluids to keep things moving. And if you're not drinking enough fluids, you may begin to feel constipated with a lot of fiber. Something to keep in mind. And are you consuming adequate calcium to support bone health? If you're not, this is an important place to consider starting. As I mentioned earlier, if you're avoiding dairy for any reason, make sure your alternative is fortified with calcium and vitamin D. You could also include a variety of calcium-rich foods to your plate, including leafy greens. Are the proteins on your plate lean? No. This is a great place to start. Try experimenting with fish, plant-based proteins, or leaner cuts of meat. Or have you been encouraged to eat less sodium? This will be a great place to start. Start by assessing your current sodium intake and work on finding lower sodium alternatives. And here's an important thing. If you would like to have a better understanding of how your food choices impact your heart health or blood sugar control or blood pressure, this will be a great place to start. Ask your healthcare provider for a referral to a registered dietitian who can help you build strategies that will work in your unique situation. Any of these examples will be a great place to start, but they are certainly not the only alternatives. The point here is that you don't have to completely change the way you eat to eat well. Make small, gradual, and sustainable changes. It's also important to know that the human body prefers to get nutrients from food. Vitamin and mineral supplements are intended to supplement your intake, not replace it. If you are deficient in a nutrient, meaning your healthcare provider has told you that you are, then supplementation may be warranted to correct the deficiency, along with increasing foods rich in the nutrient in question to your eating pattern. A registered dietitian can help you with this as well. If your eating pattern is deficient in a nutrient, one example of this might be if you are a vegan, then your diet may be deficient in B12 and supplementation may be warranted. If you are lactose intolerant and you are avoiding dairy, you may need to supplement calcium. You would need to speak with your healthcare provider to clarify this. Many of us in the modern world are deficient in vitamin D, including folks with multiple sclerosis. Vitamin D helps to regulate the amount of calcium and phosphate in the body. These nutrients are intended to keep our bones, teeth, and muscles healthy. Bone health is important to remember since those of us with MS are at an increased risk of fracture. Vitamin D also plays a role in the functioning of our immune system. Lower vitamin D levels are associated with increased risk of multiple sclerosis. With vitamin and mineral supplements, the goal is to correct deficiencies. More is not better. There is no consensus on sufficient vitamin D levels, and many factors contribute to how individuals absorb vitamin D. So a dosage should be determined by your healthcare provider and informed by your blood levels. And finally, I am frequently asked what encouragement I can provide for those with MS who have altered their diet to treat their symptoms. I try to remind people that primary MS symptoms such as fatigue, pain, cognitive challenge, and others are caused by demyelination, not nutrient deficiencies and not food sensitivities. I'm going to repeat that. These primary symptoms of multiple sclerosis are caused by the disease process, the demyelination. Food choice, along with other health promoting behaviors like exercise, sleep, stress management, can be very helpful in managing some common MS symptoms, but they cannot entirely offset the effects of demyelination. It's important that you reach out to your healthcare provider if you have any questions about the role of nutrition in health broadly or MS specifically. Thank you so much for your time and attention. I'm really happy to have been a part of the nutrition and MS conversation today. Thank you so much.